The Prisoner's Dilemma. The sky above the jungle moon of Virex 9 burned red. Thunder cracked as black clouds rolled over the sharp mountains, and deadly creatures screamed in the distance. In the middle of the jungle stood a fortress made of black metal and bone. It looked like something from a nightmare, but for the people who lived there, it was home. Inside the fortress, deep beneath the surface, guards dragged a human man down a long, dark hallway. His name was Cade Rowan, a scout from Earth. His uniform was torn, his face bruised, and his hands were tightly bound with glowing chains. He had crash-landed during a recon mission. Everyone else in his team was dead. He didn't know what these aliens wanted with him. He only knew one thing. This was a death world, a place where everything wanted to kill you, even the air. The guards threw him into a metal room with no windows. Across from him in another cell sat a strange figure. It wasn't fully alien and it wasn't fully machine. Its body was covered in dark armor, but some of the parts looked grown, like bone or flesh. The eyes glowed blue. The figure looked up and spoke in a low voice. "Another one, you won't last long." Cade didn't answer. He leaned back against the wall, breathing hard. His side was bleeding. "What's your name?" the figure asked. "Cade," he said, "from Earth." The figure nodded. "I'm Jar, from a place that doesn't exist anymore." Before Cade could respond, the door at the end of the hall opened. Two tall guards in silver armor stepped aside, and a powerful presence entered. She was at least 8 feet tall, her skin dark gold with markings that shimmered in the dim light. Her hair looked like long, smooth feathers, and her eyes were sharp, bright red like fire. Her armor was strange, a mix of stone, metal, and something living. Everyone in the room froze. Even Jar looked down. Cade didn't know her name yet, but he could feel it. She was the one in charge. She stopped in front of Cade's cell and looked at him like a scientist studying a strange animal. Then, to his surprise, she smiled. "So, you're the one they sent?" Cade stared back. "I didn't come here on purpose." "No," she said, "but you came, and that means something." She nodded to the guards. They opened the door. Cade didn't have time to resist. They pulled him to his feet and dragged him after her. They took him through twisting halls to a wide chamber lit with soft, pulsing lights. It looked like an arena, but not like any he'd seen before. There were strange symbols on the walls. At the center stood a platform with 2 circles made of glowing lines. She pointed to one of the circles. "Stand there." Cade didn't move. One of the guards struck him in the back of the leg, forcing him to kneel. "You stand there," she repeated calmly, "or you die now." Slowly, Cade stood and stepped onto the circle. The air shimmered. He felt something, warm crawl up his spine. A strange symbol appeared on his neck, burning slightly. The woman stepped into the other circle. "I am Zirala, first blade of the burning sun," she said, "and you are now my choice." Cade blinked. "You're what?" "You are not a prisoner anymore," she said. "You are something else. You were tested. You survived. That makes you interesting." "Tested?" he asked. "I crash-landed. Everyone else died." "Exactly," she said. "And yet, you live." She stepped down from the platform and walked closer. "Tell me, human, do you want to live or be remembered?" "I want to survive," Cade said honestly. "Then do what I say," she replied, her voice low. "Because things are changing. Fast." That night, Cade lay in his new cell, larger, cleaner, and filled with strange, glowing plants. Still no windows, still no freedom. But something inside him had changed. He remembered the feeling when he stood in that circle. It was like something inside him had been touched, some deep part of him no one had ever reached before. Across the hall, Shar watched him through the bars. "She picked you," Shar said softly. "She never picks anyone." "Why me?" Cade whispered. Jar leaned closer. "Because she's searching for something. A weapon, a future, a mate. Or maybe all 3. Cade's breath caught. Jar smiled darkly. And you, human, you're about to find out which one. Outside the fortress, the jungle howled. Inside, a war was beginning. Not one of guns and bombs, but of hearts and choices, and Cade was trapped between two Deathworlders. The arena of blood and ice. The fortress was silent before dawn. A cold fog crept through its endless halls, curling over steel floors and slithering beneath the thick metal doors of each cell. Somewhere far above, a siren wailed, low and haunting, like a beast mourning the dead. It wasn't a warning. It was a signal. Cade Rowan awoke to the sound of footsteps. Not heavy boots like the guards, but quiet, fast ones like claws brushing against metal. He sat up, chest tight. The glowing plants in his chamber dimmed as the door clicked open. Two guards entered without speaking. They didn't strike him or drag him this time. They simply pointed. Cade stood, his legs still aching from the burn ritual the day before. He followed them, his heart pounding like a war drum. They took him up a level he hadn't seen before. The walls were smooth now, not rough metal or bone. Strange symbols shimmered on the panels, shifting as they passed. He didn't ask questions. He knew better now. At the end of the corridor, a massive door opened with a hiss. Light blinded him. Natural light, pure and golden. When his eyes adjusted, he froze. Before him stretched the arena of blood and ice. It wasn't just a fighting pit. It was a stadium carved into the heart of a glacier, surrounded by black stone spires. Thousands of alien spectators filled the stands. Some were huge and covered in bone armor. Others were serpentine, floating above the seats with glowing eyes. Every one of them watched the center of the arena with hunger. There, standing tall under the spotlight, was Jar. He wasn't chained. He wasn't afraid. He stood calm, hands open, face unreadable. As Cade stepped out onto the frozen platform, a murmur rose from the crowd. Many didn't like this. A human didn't belong in their arena. A human was weak, soft, unworthy. Zirala's voice boomed from above, cold and sharp like crystal. Let them fight. One survives. One earns their place. The other becomes ash. The ice beneath Cade's boots cracked faintly as he stepped forward. His breath curled in front of him like smoke. He was given no weapon. Neither was Jar. But the alien didn't move. He just watched Cade approach. Cade clenched his fists. He wasn't ready for this. He had no training, no plan. His ribs still throbbed from the crash. And yet, deep down, a strange calm settled in his bones. Jar spoke first. "You think she brought you here to kill me?" Cade hesitated. "Didn't she?" Jar chuckled. "No, this is the test, not for me, for you. She's watching to see what you choose." The crowd roared around them, demanding blood. But Cade didn't strike. Neither did Jar. They circled slowly, eyes locked. "She's not just a warlord," Jar said. "She's looking for something more, a bond, a future. Her people are dying out. She needs strength, yes, but also something she's never known before." Cade's voice was quiet. "What?" "Compassion," Jar said simply. "And you're her gamble." The arena's floor shifted. Spikes of black ice began to rise from the sides, forming a shrinking circle. The two men would be forced closer, step by step, until there was no choice left but to fight. The cold bit through Cade's skin as he moved. Jar stepped in suddenly, fast as lightning, and shoved him hard. Cade stumbled back, nearly falling onto the blades of ice. He rolled and got to his feet, his heart pounding. "You think she'll protect you?" Jar growled. "She will test you until you break. And if you don't, she'll bind you." "You know her that well?" Cade snapped. Jar nodded. "I knew her before she wore the crown, before the wars, before the fire. I was meant to be her shadow, her blade. But I was replaced by someone like you. A human." The realization hit Cade like a punch to the chest. "That's what this is about," Cade said. "You want revenge?" "No," Jar said. "I want her to see. I want her to choose without lies." With a sudden move, Jar punched Cade in the gut, but not hard enough to damage, just to make a point. "Now fight me," he whispered. "Make them believe. Cade understood. It was a show, a dance for power, for the crowd, and for Zirala, herself. So he swung. Not with skill, but with desperation. Jar dodged and countered. They moved faster now, exchanging blows, tumbling across the frozen arena as the crowd screamed with excitement. Blood hit the ice, not enough to kill, but enough to stain. From her throne above, Zirala stood. "Stop," she commanded. All motion froze. Jar released Cade's collar and stepped back. Both men fell to one knee, exhausted and bruised, but alive. "She chose," Jar said under his breath, "and now, so did you." Cade was taken back to his chamber, his body trembling with pain, but something had shifted in him. He had passed a test without knowing it. Later that night, Zirala visited him. Alone. She didn't speak at first. She stood at the doorway, watching, him with those burning red eyes. "You didn't try to kill him," she finally said. "I didn't need to," Cade replied. "Good," she said. "Then you may yet be worthy of the bond." Cade stared at her. "What bond?" She stepped forward, kneeling beside him, placing one clawed hand over his heart. "The one that chooses not just your body, but your soul." And just like that, Cade realized something terrifying and impossible. He wasn't trapped between enemies. He was trapped between two ancient forces: love, survival, and something far more dangerous: hope. Her mark, his memory. The cold didn't leave Cade's bones even days after the arena. The bruises faded slowly, but the feeling of being watched never did. Not by the guards. Not by Jar. Not even by the shifting eyes in the corridors or the strange creatures that moved through the fortress's shadowy halls. No, the feeling came from something deeper, like the walls themselves remembered him, whispered about him. And then, there was the mark. He first noticed it one morning as he washed his face in the shallow basin of glowing water inside his upgraded chamber. The moment the water touched the back of his neck, it flared, hot, like fire, then cold like ice, and suddenly, a dark symbol shimmered on his skin. A spiral made of thorns and lines, pulsing slowly like it was alive. He stared at it. In the reflection, breath caught in his throat. He hadn't seen it before. Had it been burned into him during the trial, or had it grown? The door creaked open. A voice, sharp and dry, echoed through. "You carry her mark now," said Jar, leaning against the frame. His armor was scratched from their arena match, but his eyes were steady. "That's why the walls whisper. That's why even the stone watches you." Cade pulled his shirt back up, heart racing. "What does it mean?" Jar stepped inside without permission, his steps slow and sure. "It means you are chosen, not just by her, by them, her people, her bloodline, her past, her expectations." "She didn't tell me," Cade said. "She never does," Jar muttered. "She marks you first, then tests your soul." Cade turned away, fists clenched. "I didn't ask for any of this. No one ever does." The silence between them stretched, like a taut wire. Then Jar spoke again, quieter this time. "You've been dreaming, haven't you?" Cade looked up, startled. "How do you know?" Jar nodded grimly. "Because it always starts after the mark." The dreams had been growing. Vivid, too. Real. In one, he stood beneath two suns, a massive city of ivory towers crumbling around him. In another, he saw a woman, not Zirala, but someone with her face. Human. She screamed his name as fire swallowed the stars. They weren't just dreams. They were memories. But not his. "I don't understand," Cade whispered. "You will," Jar said, "if she lets you." Later that evening, Zirala summoned him again. But this time, not to the throne, not to the arena. To her private chamber, something unheard of for an outsider, much less a human. The chamber was unlike the cold, bone-wrapped halls of the fortress. It pulsed with soft light, the walls smooth and curved, like the inside of a shell. Strange glowing plants hung from the ceiling. In the center was a shallow pool, steaming softly. She stood at the edge of it, not in armor, but in robes made of thin golden fibers that shimmered when she moved. "You are changing," she said without looking at him. "Faster than I expected." "You marked me," Cade said, not hiding the sharpness in his voice. "Without permission." She turned to him slowly. Her eyes, usually burning with fire, were softer now. "Tired. Your blood answered," she said simply. "I only touched what was already waking." "Waking what?" She moved closer, her fingers brushing the side of his neck, right over the mark. A bond. Ancient. Not forced. Not arranged. A calling. He shivered. "You see her, don't you?" Zirala asked. "In your dreams. The human woman." He nodded. "She was my mother," she said, voice barely a whisper. "Taken from Earth, used for breeding. She didn't love my father, but she loved me until she died." Cade's breath caught. "I'm not fully Deathworlder," Zirala continued. "I'm half human, like you." The silence wrapped around them like a second skin. "I've been alone since her death, surrounded by warriors, betrayed by councils, praised for my strength but never seen." She turned away. "But you bleed like them. You think like her. You don't kneel. That's why I marked you." Cade stepped forward. "And what do you expect from me now? Loyalty? Love?" "No," she said, meeting his eyes again. "I expect nothing, but I hope." She paused, then added, "Jar believes. I want to control you. Maybe he's right. I don't know yet, but if you walk with me, if you stay, you'll change everything." That night, Cade sat alone in his chamber, unable to sleep. He looked at his hands, at the lines in his palms, at the soft burn of the mark on his neck. He wasn't just part of something bigger now. He was the center of it. Two Deathworlders, one with rage and fire, the other with silence and pain, had placed their fates around him like chains. But he still had a choice. Or did he? Outside, the jungle roared beneath the twin moons. Inside, the past stirred in his blood, and in his dreams, the woman screamed again. The trial of the flesh-it began with the sound of drums, deep, thunderous, beats that echoed through the walls like the heartbeat of a giant. The fortress stirred long before dawn. Doors groaned open. Guards lined the corridors, silent and still. Fire pits were lit one by one, casting strange shadows against the alien glyphs carved into every surface. Cade was already awake. He hadn't slept. Not since Zirala's confession. Not since the dreams had taken a darker turn. The human woman in his mind. Her voice had changed. She didn't scream anymore. Now she whispered. Words he couldn't quite hear. Words that filled him with dread and longing at once. The door to his chamber slid open, not with force but with quiet formality. A robed figure entered. She was smaller than the warriors, older, with silver threads woven into her skin and a staff of polished bone in her hand. "You must come," she said, her voice like crumbling leaves. "It is time." He didn't ask where they were going. He already knew. The trial of the flesh. Every Deathworlder noble underwent it. It was said to be the moment where pain carved away the weak spirit, revealing either a warrior or a ghost. For Zirala, whose bloodlines were doubted by many, Cade's trial was more than tradition. It was a message. The path led through a winding tunnel lit with flickering red crystals. They passed under carved arches, each bearing a different mark, symbols of pain, endurance, sacrifice. At the end, a great iron gate opened, revealing the furnace path. It was a corridor of glowing stone, lined with molten cracks and spires of obsidian. The air shimmered with heat. Cade squinted as he stepped forward, barefoot, onto the first slab. It burned instantly, not enough to destroy flesh, but enough to make every step scream. Hundreds watched from above. Alien nobles, warriors, Cyrilas, generals. And at the far end stood Zirala, her arms crossed, face like carved marble. "You must walk," the elder woman said. "You must not fall, not crawl, not cry. If you do, your bond is broken, and she loses her claim. Cade didn't speak. He looked down the corridor and took a breath. Then he stepped forward. The first 10 steps tore the skin from his soles. The next 10 made his knees tremble. The 30 after that blurred into something more primal. Time vanished. The world narrowed to breath and agony. Sweat soaked his skin. The smell of burning flesh, his own, filled the air. He heard jeers, laughter, whispers. He's just a man. He won't last another step. Her blood is weak. But through it all, he kept moving. Step by step. Forward. Always forward. Halfway through, the heat became hallucination. He saw the woman again, the one from his dreams. She walked beside him barefoot too, her eyes filled with sorrow. "You don't belong here," she said. "I never did," he replied. She looked up toward the end of the corridor. "Then why are you walking toward it?" "Because I want to. Know if I'm more than what they think I am." When he blinked, she was gone. By the time he reached the final slab, his legs barely worked. He fell to one knee, but forced himself back up, even as blood left a trail behind him. The guard stepped forward, ready to catch him, but he raised one hand. "No," he growled. "I finish this." The last step was higher, a symbolic rise, a challenge of pride. He dug his fingers into the grooves, pulled himself up, and stood. Then, he collapsed. Gasps filled the arena above. Silence followed. And then, the roar. Not one of anger, not shame, but respect. Zirala descended the stairs. She moved slowly, not with the fire of a warlord, but the grace of something older. She knelt beside him and placed her hand on his burned chest. "You walked it alone," she said softly. "I had no choice," he whispered. "No," she said, "but you chose to walk it anyway." She rose and turned to face the crowd. "Let it be known," she declared, her voice shaking the stones. "The human carries the bond. His blood is marked, his flesh endured, and now he walks beside me." Some cheered, some turned away in disgust, but none denied the truth anymore. That night, Cade lay in a healing chamber, submerged in thick, luminous fluid. His skin sizzled as new cells knitted together. His body ached with every heartbeat. But inside, a quiet peace took hold. He had survived the impossible. Zirala sat at his side, silent for a long time. Finally, she spoke. "You know they will come for you soon, your people, your fleet. Earth won't let you stay here." Cade didn't open his eyes. "I don't care." "You should." He turned his head slightly toward her voice. "Will you fight them?" She paused. "Only if they try to take what is mine." His heart thumped once hard. "What am I to you?" he asked. She leaned down close, her breath warm against his ear. "You are fire. You are memory. You are choice." And, in that moment, Cade finally understood the truth. This wasn't just a trial of the flesh. It was the beginning of a war between two worlds, and he was no longer just a man. He was the spark. The human fleet arrives. They came without warning. The fortress lights flickered, then dimmed, as if the sky itself had blinked. Sirens wailed, long wailing calls not of celebration or ritual, but alarm. For the first time since Cade had arrived, on Virex 9 the warriors ran, not toward battle but toward shelter. He limped to the upper balcony, still bandaged from the trial of the flesh, but something in his gut had pulled him there before the alarms even began. And when he looked up into the crimson clouds, his breath caught. They weren't stars. They were ships. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. Black angular silhouettes gliding silently into Virex's upper atmosphere. Earth's military vessels. Familiar. Cold. Efficient. Each one a monument to human engineering and human fear. They'd found him. The message was clear. He wasn't forgotten, but he wasn't free either. A distant boom shook the ground as one of the smaller vessels dropped through the HFY clouds and hovered above the jungle. Its underbelly opened like a steel jaw, and troop pods rained down like meteors. Cade staggered back from the balcony rail. Behind him, Zirala approached, her war armor once again wrapped tight around her like a second skin. The flames of her crown pulsed softly above her brow, and her red eyes burned brighter than ever. "They have come," she said. "I didn't call them," Cade whispered. "I know. Then why are they here?" Zirala looked out at the sky, her voice low and unreadable. "Because they believe you are theirs, and they want to take back what they think belongs to them." "But I'm not theirs," Cade said. "Not anymore." "No," she replied. "You are mine, and that is the problem." That day, the fortress became a blade drawn in the dark. Armies rallied, shields were raised, weapons old and sacred were unearthed from beneath the temple. War chants echoed through the stone corridors like thunder. For the Deathworlders, it was a call to stand tall. But for Cade, it was something else. He stood in the war room surrounded by generals who barely looked at him. Some still doubted him. Others feared him. Only Jar met his eyes, and even he said nothing. Cade knew what they were all thinking. The human had brought this war to their doorstep, and they weren't wrong. He turned away from the maps and stepped outside, where the twin suns burned behind. The clouds. The jungle crackled below, and far in the distance human dropships moved like shadows between the trees. He activated the old communicator still implanted behind his ear. It clicked, then buzzed. A voice came through, crisp and military sharp. "This is Commander Aleth of the Sol Prime Fleet. Cade Rowan, you are ordered to report your location. Extraction is imminent." Cade swallowed hard. "You found me fast," he said into the silence. "We never stopped looking," Aleth replied. "You are listed as compromised. Our intelligence reports indicate you've been marked by a hostile alien leader. Your mission is over." "She's not hostile," Cade said, "and I'm not compromised. You bonded with her. That's enough." Cade's grip tightened. "She saved my life. And you gave her access to your DNA, your neural patterns, your loyalty." A pause. "Your presence has triggered a security response," Aleth added. "Virex 9 is now classified as a developing threat. Our orders are to eliminate the risk, including you if necessary." The line went quiet. Cade stared at the ground. So that was it. Earth wasn't here to rescue him. They were here to wipe the board clean. Clean the mess, eliminate the anomaly. And he was the anomaly. That night, he sat alone beneath the stars, staring at the alien sky. Zirala found him there. She didn't speak right away. She sat beside him on the cold stone and looked up with him. "I remember when I was young," she said quietly. "I used to believe the stars were ancestors, watching, guiding. Now I know they are just fire, burning, distant, cold. I thought they'd come to help me," Cade said. "They came to control you." He looked at her. "Will you fight them?" She turned to him, eyes unreadable. "Only if you ask me not to." Cade shook his head. "That's not a choice." "No," she said. "It's your choice. I don't want to own you. I want you to choose." In the silence that followed, he thought about everything. The crash, the arena, the mark, the pain, the dreams. He thought of Earth, of rules, of loyalty. And he thought of her. An alien warlord with half a human soul and eyes that didn't know how to lie. Then he stood. He activated the comm link again and spoke into it. "To the Sol Prime Fleet. This is Cade Rowan. I am alive, I am well, and I will not be extracted. I've seen what Earth is willing to destroy in the name of fear. I choose differently." Silence. Then a sharp response. "You are out of line. You are now considered hostile." Cade took a deep breath. "Then I'll show you what it means when a human truly goes rogue." He closed the link. Beside him, Zirala rose slowly. "They'll come harder now," she said. "Let them," Cade answered, and across the dark sky, the warship stirred. Because the moment he refused to kneel, Earth had not only lost a soldier, they had created a rebel. The heart of the moon, the storm came before the fire. A howl ripped through the sky as the first barrage from Earth's fleet struck the outer jungle. Trees hundreds of feet tall vanished in columns of smoke and flame. The ground shook beneath the fortress as waves of force rattled its bones. And beneath it all, a low hum pulsed from the heart of the moon, ancient and awakening. Cade stood at the edge of the temple courtyard, watching the firelight reflect in Zirala's armor. She was still statuesque, her expression unreadable. Behind her, the priest guard recited old war chants, preparing the last line of defense. He didn't belong here, not by blood, not by history. Yet everything in him screamed that this was where he had to stand. But what he didn't know, what no one had told him, was that beneath the fortress, buried deep in the molten core of Virex 9, lay something far older than any army. The Sanctum Core. A relic from the first terraforming, built by humans, hidden by aliens, sealed away because it was never meant to be used again, unless someone woke it. The tremor hit harder this time. Dust fell from the ceiling as stone cracked underfoot. Zirala turned, meeting his gaze. "They've started targeting the substructure," she said. "They're digging with plasma, looking for the core." Cade blinked. "How do they even know it's here?" "They don't. Not exactly, but someone told them." Her eyes narrowed. Jar. The name struck like ice. Cade hadn't seen Jar since the night of the trial. Rumors had swirled, whispers of betrayal, of silent meetings with Earth's agents, of old grudges rising like ghosts. But Cade had refused to believe it. Until now. "The core isn't a weapon," Zirala said. "It's worse. It's a seed, one that rewrites the world it touches." "What happens if they activate it?" Cade asked. "Virex becomes a machine. Planet," she said. "Everything organic. Replaced. Absorbed. Purged. You'd die." She looked at him. "We all would." Without a word, Cade turned and started down the stairs. She followed him. They descended deeper than he had ever gone, into tunnels carved not by tools, but by heat and time. Symbols from both alien and human languages lined the walls, warnings, prayers, equations. And at the end of the path was a door. It pulsed with a heartbeat. One that didn't belong to any living thing. Zirala placed her hand against the metal. "I can't open it," she said. "Only you can." "Why?" "Because your blood answers to it." Cade stepped forward. As his hand touched the surface, it rippled like water. Lights ignited in the ceiling. The door slid apart, revealing a massive chamber filled with spiraling pillars of light and cables like roots. At its center, the core floated. It was the size of a human heart, but it glowed like a star. Shifting energy danced across its surface, casting shadows that didn't match their owners. He stepped closer, and it spoke not with words, but with memory. His mind snapped backward, visions of Earth, of cities consumed by metal, of machines evolving beyond their masters. He saw the core land here, buried in Virex's crust, forgotten, waiting, watching, and he saw himself. In the past, in the future, the same man, different fates. Zirala touched his arm. Her voice pulled him back. "You don't have to wake it, but Jar will." "Then you must decide," she said softly. "Control it, or destroy it." Cade stared, at the core. His hands trembled. He thought of Earth, of betrayal, of survival. He thought of Zirala, of what she'd given up, what she still feared, and then, without warning, the chamber shook violently. A breach. Explosions echoed above. The air filled with dust. Then came the sound of metal boots, dozens of them. The entrance was under attack. Cade turned. Jar stood. In the doorway, his armor was cracked, his eyes wild. "You don't understand what this means," Jar shouted. This is our chance to make peace with them, with Earth. This will destroy everything, Cade snapped. No, Jar said. This will make us equal. He reached for the core. Zirala moved first, faster than lightning. Her blade slashed, but Jar was quicker. He ducked, rolled, and shoved her aside. Cade didn't think. He leapt between them and placed both hands on the core. The world vanished. He was nowhere and everywhere. He saw two timelines. In one, he let the core activate. The fortress burned. The moon cracked open. Zirala died in his arms, whispering her mother's name. In the other, he stopped it. And something new began. He made his choice. When his eyes opened again, he was on the floor. The core was dark, silent, dead. Jar was gone. Zirala was kneeling. Beside him, her hand pressed to his chest. You stopped it, she said, breathless. I had to. She smiled softly. Then you are not just a bond. What am I? She stood. You are the heart. Alarms blared again, but this time, not from within. The Earth fleet was retreating. Something had changed. Maybe they sensed the core's death, or maybe they realized this moon had chosen its protector, and that protector was no longer just a soldier. He was something much, much more. Between two Deathworlders, the silence after the storm was stranger than the war itself. For 3 days, the skies above Virex 9 remained still. No ships moved, no bombs fell. The great jungle no longer burned, and the fortress walls, though cracked and scarred, stood strong beneath the twin moons. And in that silence, a new kind of tension took root, not born of fear, but of change. Cade woke to birdsong. He hadn't realized this moon had birds. But there they were, perched in the high arches of the war temple, chirping soft alien notes. Life was returning. Or maybe, for the first time, it was simply being noticed. His body still ached from the core's shutdown. Something inside him had burned away, something invisible but real. He had stared into a power meant to reshape worlds and said no, and in return, the core had left him, marked, but not destroyed. The bond on his neck no longer glowed. Now it pulsed, slow and calm, like a heartbeat at peace. He found Zirala waiting outside. Her eyes turned toward the eastern ridge, where sunlight poured over the sharp spires like liquid gold. She didn't speak at first. Neither did he. Finally, she said, "They've called for a ceasefire." Cade raised an eyebrow. "Earth?" She nodded. "Their fleet has pulled back to the outer rings. They want to negotiate terms." Cade almost laughed. "Now that I've shut off the one thing they wanted." "No," she replied, "because you proved we're not monsters." He looked at her, startled. She continued, "You could have let the core rewrite this moon. You could have used it against both sides, and they saw that. They felt it." "They still called me a traitor," he said bitterly. "They called you a threat," she corrected, "and now they don't know what you are." He let her words hang in the air. "What am I, Zirala?" She turned to face him fully, her gaze softer now and more terrifying in its honesty. "You are the bridge," she said, "the wound between our worlds, and the only chance either of us has to heal." Later that night, a strange council was held, not of politicians but of warriors, leaders, and outcasts. Aboard a ship newly constructed from both human alloy and Deathworlder stone, Cade stood between two flags, one bearing Earth's sigil, the other the old crest of Zirala's fallen empire. Jar was there too, scarred, quiet, changed. He had returned not to fight, but to listen. Perhaps even to repent. Cade stood before them all not as a soldier or a prisoner, but as something new. "I am not a tool," he began, his voice low but steady. "Not for Earth, not for Virex. I was sent here to scout. I survived. But in surviving, I became something no one planned for." He looked from face to face, warriors, aliens, humans, machines. "I chose not to be used, and that choice changed everything." He paused, then said what none of them wanted to admit. "We're not enemies because of our biology. or our blood. We're enemies because we're afraid of what happens if we trust. Silence. Then Zirela stepped forward, placing her clawed hand on his shoulder. I claim no ownership over him, she said, but I will fight beside him, not as queen, not as warlord, as equal. The ship hummed with energy. Something shifted in the air, like an ancient weight had finally lifted. And so, a pact was formed, not in ink, not in ceremony, but in choice. New alliance born not from strategy, but from survival, pain, and love, strange and dangerous as it was. As the ship lifted into the stars, Cade stood on the bridge, watching the planet shrink below. Zirela stood at his right, Jar at his left. Behind them, a mixed crew, some human, some alien, spoke in different tongues but moved with a single purpose. What now? Cade asked. Zirela smiled, something rare and unguarded. We find others like us, the forgotten, the divided. And we show them another way, Jar added. We were made for war. Now let's see if we can be made for peace. Cade nodded, and together they sailed into the void, not as rulers, not as soldiers, but as three beings who had once been enemies, now bound by pain, hope, and something deeper, a dangerous love that had defied both death and destiny. And somewhere, in the black between stars, the galaxy held its breath. Because for the first time in 1,000 years, humanity wasn't just surviving, it was leading.